Ice Scrappers, Tom from the Ice Scrap app. Today's Wednesday, June 6th, 2018. We hope that many of you are doing well. Fortunately, we have a lot of positive news today, and we're going to start with the copper prices, but before we get there, please make sure you sign up for our updated market watches. Every Monday morning, we plan on sending out a new email that tells you where the markets are, where the prices have been, and we'll start to correspond with the new homepage and the new website that we have coming up in the next couple of weeks. I know I keep saying that, but instead of just having our website go live and not having everything be in the right order, we're taking our time to do things correctly the first time so you get the information as clear and concise as possible. So every Monday we have our new website coming out, so make sure, our new emails coming out. So it's just going to give you a couple of news articles, a couple of prices, a couple of tidbits that's going on with the market to help you know what's going on a little better than you already do. So, sign up, let us know. If you can't find the link, we'll make sure to post it on all of our social sites. Let us know what you think of the emails and what we can do to help make them better going forward. So, again, today's Wednesday, June 6th. Every Wednesday around 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we try to do these live feeds. So feel free to ask questions while we're doing Facebook Live, and when we post some of these things on our other social media sites and they're not live, just make sure you let us know any questions you have, and we'll continue to post them and write blogs and more information going out to you. But the last week, we've seen copper prices rise about 15 cents a pound. Wow, such a crazy number, and really, that number is just Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday this week. We do these, like I said, around 1 p.m. Eastern, so about 15 cents a pound. We've seen these markets shoot up, upwards of that in different areas of trading. This morning, we saw 16, 17 cents in the first 3 days of this trading week, which is really exciting. What's really nice to see is the optimism that people are sharing. We're seeing scrap yards raise their prices because the traders and the larger buyers of copper are immediately putting out demand even with these higher prices, which is immediately leading to prices being reported across the US and Canada higher. We've seen bare bright prices anywhere from 7 to 12 cents higher than they are. We'll go over a couple of quick recap and prices right now. The last week we saw bare bright ranging from $2.30 all the way up to $2.85 a pound. That was yesterday with these increased markets. Copper tubing about 20 cents below that, $2.10 to $2.65. Brass prices ranging from $1.50 to $1.75. And one item that we want to talk about in particular in a couple of minutes will be the insulated wire market. We saw that drop about 3 to 5 cents a pound for most grades of wire. Now, heavier grades of steel, we saw those prices drop on average about $7 per ton. We saw light iron stay relatively calm, not moving after the drop that we saw about a week or two ago. Aluminum price is relatively strong, and we've seen the aluminum can market in the 33 to 43 cent a pound range. Virginia, we have a question?
We just had a question from Steven.
Hey, Steven.
Ballasts from fluorescent lights, any market for them?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for the question. A couple of different types of ballasts from fluorescent lights. You have electronic ballasts that are from many of the newer lights that are out there, the LEDs. Those are, how do I put it correctly? Shit. Those have a very, very low copper yield, 5 to 8 cents a pound, very low market for the electronic ballasts. But do not put them in with your steel. That is the incorrect way to be scrapping. We don't want items that are mixed with copper to go items that are mixed with steel. Into the primary steel pile. You have the next type of ballasts, which are non-PCB ballasts, which are the larger black ones. Those are great. We saw prices for those anywhere from 9 to 17 cents a pound. There's another type of a ballast that looks similar to a copper transformer. Those prices are anywhere from 14 to 21 cents a pound. Sometimes larger prices will be seen if you have a better transformer coming out of certain bulbs. Stephen, thank you for the question. Other markets, we've seen gold hover right around $1,300 an ounce, leading to a very stable electronics market. One thing that we'll talk about in a little while with gold is kind of how it's gotten away from that gold standard over the last 80 years. And a lot of people ask, do we see gold being moved going forward? But let's go back to the copper wire prices that we mentioned briefly. We have started to hear some positive trending news out of China. We saw the large cell phone manufacturers ZTE in China starting to agree to a couple of new regulations so they can start to get a little more of the US's technology to them. So that's a positive sign. We've heard that we've continued to have continued talks between the US and China. That's a positive sign. We've seen the gas and oil prices decrease over the last week by about 4 or 5%. That's a positive sign. All of these have started to add to the copper wire markets becoming a little more positive. We've also seen other countries and other people in the US starting to buy wire because people are sorting it better. Now, a couple of weeks ago, I was interviewed through Bloomberg, one of the larger news and business market publications and centers throughout the entire US, if not the world. And one thing that I had told them, they asked me why the Chinese stopped taking and buying so many US products. And one thing that I said was, China was tired of taking garbage from the US. They were tired of being the garbage can for the world to send any type of recyclable, quote unquote, that would go out there. And a couple of articles we read mimic that. This one's from the Wall Street Journal, and it was talking about the cardboard, the glass, and the plastics industry. And what they were saying, was towns were making money on a lot of these things, but the article said how U.S. companies were getting lazy. And a couple of scrapyard owners that would be working on OCC or corrugated cardboard, as well as plastics, were, after they were interviewed in the article, they said the same thing. They were getting lazy. They were taking advantage of a lot of the prices that they were getting. They didn't care as much about the products. And that article that talks about cardboard and plastics can also be applied to insulated copper wires. We might be sending stuff over as scrapyard owners saying that this is 50% copper, 50% plastic, when in reality it's 42% copper and 58% plastic. And those disparities that were happening from the U.S. to the Chinese, the exports, those were one of the many reasons that the Chinese were really getting pissed off. And that's why they said, we're not taking your material in. And we've continued to see this ban on imports happening. Now, hopefully the positive news that we're starting to see out of the talks between the U.S. and the Chinese will start to lead to these imports being let back into the country and some of the bans being lifted. But you want to know, sometimes you need to hit the reset button, which is what the Chinese did. And while I'm a scrapyard owner and it did affect us, I have no problem with people doing things that are going to help them long term have continued growth and prosperity, which is one of the things that the Chinese have done. Now, we've had problems with the U.S. With other countries because the U.S. has imposed so many different tariffs on the steel and the aluminum market. But what we've started to see is, while there have been retaliatory tariffs from other countries, whether it's on whiskey, blue jeans, or different exports that the U.S. have, retaliatory, I'm saying it wrong, it's just one of those tongue twisters.
Retaliation?
No, it's not. Retaliatory, I believe that's how you say it, whatever. You can correct me and I'll look it up and I'll probably say it to myself 12 times after we're done with this. But we've seen other countries coming back at us, and we're in a limbo right now, which is what President Trump has said for the last 2 years since he was running, then elected, and then really getting into office. They want to redo a lot of these trade agreements throughout not only the U.S., but U.S. and China, but you've also seen these tariffs go into effect on the Canadian markets, on the Mexican markets, now the European markets. He's kind of shaking things up, and unfortunately the scrap hairs get caught in the middle of it, so we're in a wait-and-see mode. Virginia, we had another question?
We had a couple questions that came up. First one is from Justin Jones.
Hi, Justin.
Justin asks, as someone that does custom car crushing, I have felt that steel prices peak in winter months. Obviously, there are a lot of variables today with tariffs and other political issues, but do you feel that metals will rise again this coming winter? I've always felt that the reason they do this is that many amateur scrappers bring in more material during spring through fall.
I think that's a great question. I appreciate it, and I'd like to put my Swami hat on and predict the future, but the hat doesn't exist, as you see, so I can't tell you if the prices are going to go up. But what I can tell you from many years of looking into things are a lot of the trends that people think exist are really bullshit. The smaller scrappers that save things, guys like yourself that are doing car crushing, I don't want to sound mean, you are all pieces together, and unless everyone bands together and stops selling scrap, there's always material moving. You know, whether it's a production or a manufacturing company that's producing scrap from their nuts, bolts, car parts, machine parts, there's scrap being produced, they don't save this stuff, they move it out of the way. So there's always a flow of material going in. Scrap yards like myself, we're picking material up constantly from customers. We don't hold on to it and gamble. We take it, move it, ship it, sell it, go to the next dumpster. So, you know, I think a lot of what you're thinking about maybe once was true, but is no longer true, and there's no real guidelines as to when the markets are going to be moving, so you have to wait and see. Another question, V?
Just a couple shout-outs. James from Florida.
James, what's up?
Buck from Florida.
Buck, what's up?
And Bobby from Cincinnati.
Howdy, Bobby. So, we were talking about the steel thing. Guys, thank you for all, for tuning in. Let us know any questions, concerns, comments, anything you have. Again, I proved that I own more than one shirt. I made sure to not wear my red shirt today. Today we're going blue. So I do own more than one shirt, although 4 videos in a row would say otherwise, but I promise you I do. So a couple of things. The heavy steel market is down $7 to $10 a ton over the last week. A lot of demand was there. A lot of orders were filled. I talked to a couple of larger yards that export materials overseas, whether it's to India, Turkey. I'm going to exclude the Asian markets right now, saying that a lot of the barges that would be getting loaded at a lot of larger facilities, those barge numbers have gone down. People are getting a large amount of material in, and we're just kind of seeing a little bit of a slowdown. $10, $7 a ton, not the worst thing considering markets are still higher for 2018, especially when you compare them to 2 years ago where the markets were at, so the markets are strong. We mentioned gold briefly with the the gold standard, and a lot of people have asked us questions over the years with the gold standard, with gold scrap, with gold prices. And one thing you really want to think about is how you're watching this video right now. How do you think your phone, your tablet, your iPad, your computer, your desktop computer are powered? How do you think the internet gets to you? You know, while a lot of things are becoming more fiber optic and plastic based, you still need gold to have that solid connector between the internet, the Ethernet cord and the router, between the different components on the motherboards, the computer chips, the processors. So gold has really transformed as to being the backing for currency, to being used for jewelry for many years. Then different metals were introduced into the jewelry industry, which brought gold's value down a little bit. But then the electronics industry has really ramped up. And while they are able to do more things with aluminum, copper, and fiber-based materials, you still see gold being used in a lot of these high-end processors, especially the ones that you see in these smaller devices. When we're filming a video right now or doing it live through an iPhone. That's crazy. Think about that. I can have a live video wherever I am because of the small processors and components inside of a phone. When you look at a motherboard, it's this big on a phone. So that gold, that's where the value is going forward. A lot of the reuse is where a lot of the electronics prices are going to be valuable. The scrap market has really weakened for gold and for silver because of the amount of work that has to go in to have it recycled correctly. But we're continuing to look into it. We're continuing to learn more about it, and hopefully as the months and years move on, we'll have better and more in-depth answers. Guys, this is Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, June 6, 2018. Please post and comment any questions you have about the scrap metal market. Please sign up for our Monday email where we send out the market watch and give you a couple of updated tips on where the scrap prices have been. Let us know what we can do better to serve you. Watch out for our homepage coming soon. Until next week, I'll scrap you later.